Hello, Danner. This is Heather Newton reviewing your entry in the social deduction contest, High Treason. Let's first start looking at the images above the fold on your shop page. I think you've done a good job with the hero image and the logo you've chosen for overlaying. It's filling up the whole space, making good use of the art, making kind of the theme clear and readable, everything like that. I don't have any real specific suggestions for possible improvements, so I think you've done a good job there. So you have it for sale on the Game Crafter, which, although putting it up for sale is not a requirement in the contest at all, it is good to see you putting it out there, and it's good to see a really affordable price point. So I think that should be an easy yes for people as you're pushing traffic towards it and encouraging people to buy. So that's great to see. I think that your cool factors are, by and large, what I want to see for cool factors. They're specific to what is memorable and interesting about your game. That it's an easy-to-learn social deduction game is not, like, a game that's easy to learn is not super unique, so you could use that space potentially for something that's more specifically unique and eye-catching about this particular game. But the other two are what I like. The fact that the traders are in the majority, I think maybe that should even be the one that's at the top of the list, because it does stand out to me as the most unique thing about this game, or the thing that interests me to try it. And you do lead with that here. And we have some story and the play explained in 2 minutes. Okay, so I gave a bonus point to people who did a how to play video on their shop pages in general, because it's not a requirement to make a video to enter a contest, but it definitely does help everyone, both the judge and anybody considering voting for it in the community voting or purchasing it eventually on the Game Crafter or whatever, be sure that they're understanding the rules. But what about how to play video helps people be sure they're understanding the rules is hearing someone explain it to them, showing the components, moving the cards around, talking about how you play. And your how to play video is really a slideshow, so it's mostly just an animated rule book. And I didn't give the bonus point for that because it didn't give me the help that I'm looking for how to play video to give me. And I wonder if, because I can see that your name is a foreign name, and so English might not be, or foreign to me anyway, English might not be your first language. And maybe that's the reason why it's all just text and music and stuff and a slideshow. Because I know I've heard a lot of people who are trying to present something in English and they know they'll have an accent feel self-conscious about it. So I don't know if I'm reading into it and if that is the reason for you, but just in case it is the reason that you didn't speak in the video, I do encourage you to not worry too much about that, because, you know, although somebody might complain about it or might criticize you for having an accent, I feel like anyone who has made something creative themselves, like people who are in the Game Crafter community who are going to be looking at this more than anybody else, we all know what it's like to put your heart and soul into a project and do something hard and kind of expose yourself to criticism. So we're not really looking to criticize people about something petty like an accent. And I mean, it might be a little bit harder for me to understand you than somebody who has English as their first language, but I think that a lot of times an accent can be endearing and memorable when I hear somebody speaking with an accent, and I always really feel like I'm impressed with the fact that they can speak English at all, right? And I can't speak a foreign language fluently enough to explain or language is foreign to me, to explain rules to a game to somebody who speaks that language natively. So you're already way ahead of me, and I would never pick on you for it. Even if I struggle a little bit to understand what you're saying, even if I notice that I can't quite understand you as well, I'm not going to give you a hard time about it, and I'm going to make an effort to understand you as best I can. So I encourage you to give it a try with another how to play video someday, next time you do a contest or something like that. Now let's look at your box. So this is how you've made it really affordable, is you have it's all just a card game, or it just has one kind of little plastic piece, and otherwise it's cards. So it fits in a tuck box, which those are a pretty affordable component on the Game Crafter. I think this is a nice box. I like the wood design, and you've got the stats for the game on one side of the box. I think maybe the opposite side of the box would be a good place to put the name of the game on the side. So if somebody has it on the shelf like a book with its spine sticking out, they'll be able to tell quickly which game that is. And remember, they have been meaning to play it. And I see you've submitted this one for a sanity test, and you've gotten a relatively high above average score on the sanity test accolade, and you've done the art test too. And we have our action shots. I think this is what I want to see as an action shot, a photo of the game being played, set up. This is pretty good action shot. It's got a lot of words on it. I might rather see this honestly embedded up here with some text and maybe a headline text above it or whatever, because it has a lot of words on it, and this is a carousel, so it's moving. It makes it hard for me to parse, or it automatically moves a lot of times, and it makes it hard for me to parse all the words before it moves on me. I think this is great to have a picture of people playing and enjoying the game. I like to see that. This is a good type of thing. I'd rather see like a full card images, again, embedded as an image up here rather than just moving. This is kind of like an action shot, a mock-up of the box. But you... Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, okay, it is interesting. This does not make me think tuck box, just because it's so big and I can't see the size of it in relation to cards. I know it's a tuck box because I looked at the components carefully, but if I didn't know that, I actually would picture that box as a bigger box. So it might be better to, instead of doing this, have a picture of the box with the cards around it. Yeah, the only thing missing from this picture is the box. I'm guessing you do have the box, but anyway. Let's go over and look at your rule book. Let's go to the top here. I think this is really a cool cover. I like the burned in look, and you've got these nice game stat icons up or on the front cover of the rule book, so that's great. We've got some story. You might want a headline that says the story or something like that. Overview. I'd like to see the objective before the overview, so I can kind of get oriented, get a feel for what I'm going to be doing in the game or what my goal is going to be. So everything else that I read, I can picture it from the perspective of myself as a player as I'm playing. One thing that can be really challenging, I know from experience about social deduction games, is that it depends on what team you are on. Almost always there's more than one possible objective, but you can mention them both and describe the difference between the objectives so that people can start visualizing sort of the conflict between the two teams from the beginning in the right frame of reference of what each side's goal is going to be. And here's that same, this is from your action shots, or you put this in your action shots. It's a page from your rule book. We have the setup. If possible, I do like it when the setup can, because you do have this diagram. Maybe this is just a list, I think, of the components. So this is the component list. It's not labeled as the component list. I'd add that label to it. it's good that you have the counts and what they all look like. That helps people know they have all the pieces and know, like, start learning the terminology in the game. But it would be great if it was labeled as components. This is not necessarily a layout or what it looks like as you're setting up the game, but it's a list to show you what all the components look like and what they're called. So a headline on this page would help. The setup. Yeah, if you can do a setup where you have a diagram too, and say like labels on the diagram, like A, this is what this is what you're doing in this step A label above or next to the words explaining what to do would be great. This looks like the setup of the game. So if this image could be closer to where it says setup, or maybe even on the same page or on a spread with it, that would make it more user-friendly. Okay, we got the gameplay, the passing of cards to each other. And not spend too much time on the details, or keep moving through kind of the overall review of this. The game end, the influence drops to 0, or both loyalists are dead. Yeah. So this is the kind of thing that I'm saying I'd like to see up at the top, so I can have in mind my goal the whole time I'm reading to understand the rules. Or Rebel's influence drops to 0. All right, and we've got our playtesters and our credits page. It's great to have that included. So I'll say that this didn't quite make it to finals in the judging round. It was really close. I'm really intrigued by the idea of more traitors than good guys and how that can play out and be balanced. Ultimately, there were a few things about the rules that just made me feel unsure that I really understood how they worked, and unsure that I'd be able to teach it and play it as intended for the finalist judging round. And I'm it's not just a matter of whether or not I think the game is worth playing and trying, because I would like to try it if I got the opportunity to, and it's really affordable, so I may purchase it just because I'm curious to try it and study how it works. But I also have to, as far as choosing finalists, I have to compare it to all the other entries, and there were just a lot of really strong entries in this game that ultimately were easier for me to feel sure that I knew how to play. So they just bumped it down, and it was pretty close. It was in the last few that I was determining whether or not I could have it be, in that last 7th spot after I had picked some of the others. So it was really close, just didn't quite make it. I see that you already did a sanity test. I think that it is something about the rules that are making me feel unsure that I understand them, something about the way they're written or the order or the way they're organized or something like that. It's very possible that it actually says everything I need to know there, but something about the order I'm reading it is making it hard for me to parse. And it's tough too when you're trying to read and understand rules without having the components in hand. Normally when you're learning a game, you do have that luxury of having the components. And for normal playtesting and blind playtesting and rules editing and everything, normally people buy the game and then they try to learn how to play it. But sometimes, too, reading the rules is how people decide whether or not they feel sure they want to buy a game. So you might want to try a blind play test or a rules exchange with another designer where they have never been exposed to the game before. They read the rules, and then you have them try to teach you without the components, especially if you were going to do a contest again where only the rules will be the thing that's being judged. I would trade it with another designer, or get another designer to help you if you can't trade back the rules editing, but have them read it and then explain to you how they think it's played and see if they're right. See what they were confused about, what they missed. Sometimes it'll say exactly what they needed to know, but they thought they read it, but it just fell right out of their brain right after they read it. Things like that happen all the time. So sometimes it's just a rearranging of the order that you tell people things, or where you put the emphasis on a certain paragraph or something like that. So anyway, I'm happy to see that you do have this all the way put up for sale on the Game Crafter, and I encourage you to keep pushing traffic towards it, keep maybe tweaking and developing it if you see some, ways to improve it, at the very least improve the way the rules are written, even if there's not changes needed to the mechanics themselves. I couldn't say that for sure until I actually played it, what my opinion would be on that, but I'm glad to see it all finished and available for sale, and I wish you luck as you continue with this project. Hey there, thanks for watching. Be sure to check the description for more information and links to helpful resources. Some links will give me a commission if you choose to buy, and I sure do appreciate the support. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.